We're celebrating your reality.
It's actually hologram.
Good.
蛮好的，不错。
It was good. It was kind of a slow day today.
100% not.
No, maybe 60%.
I would say it depends.
I think it depends on who I'm talking to, but it's difficult to be 100% honest.
How's your day? How are you going? 最近好吗? Did you answer the question in your mind to me? This question, how's your day? 最近如何 keeps popping up ever since I can remember, and I often can sum up the emotion of the day at once. So I must make a quick summary and finally blurt out, well, not bad. But no matter how often this question appears in my life, it still makes me feel awkward. I wonder if my embarrassment is common. In order to find an answer, I choose a small aspect of my daily life as my MFA thesis project. How's your day? 日日安好. Initially, I designed interviews and conducted them with close friends, as well as people I just met. As I wanted to collect their most realistic reactions, I did not give them an outline in advance. So when I asked them, how was your day? 最近好吗? These are their response.
Good. It was kind of a slow day today.
It's a good day. I'm in Somerset. Yeah, preparing for hiking tomorrow.
蛮好的，心情啊什么的都还蛮开心的。
还可以啊。
不错。
没什么起伏。
很忙哎，最近在找工作啊。
It's cool. It's quite busy. Good. Very good. Just wake up.
I'm eating my breakfast now.
Yeah. Eating breakfast. How's your eating breakfast? Yeah. Then I asked the interviewees, when someone asks you the question, are you 100% honest? And it's quite interesting that there are different kind of answers. People who think they are 0% honest, they say the answer will be predetermined, and no matter how well they do, they will give the same answer. And people who are 1 to 99% honest say it depends on who you are talking to. Maybe people prefer to talk more to friends who are closer to them, which makes sense because you know more about them. And some people choose to only say positive things to their loved ones because they don't want to be a burden to them. And other people may consider their own image when dealing with different people. So the official answer will be neutral but flexible. And people who believe they are 100% honest say that they will mention their actual situation when answering the question. For example, employment status, progress on their studies, travel arrangement, etc., etc. However, The content is irrelevant to emotions and feelings. And when I asked more about the definition of these emojis of their choice, I got a lot of interesting response. Like, since you don't seem to care how I'm doing, I will just simply say I'm great. If I say I'm good, then I have to explain why I've been good recently, so I'll just say it's normal. Or some people even say that they would say they were tired and busy at work, so that the topic of conversation would not mention their mood and they can easily change the topic. After I've said so much, maybe you might think that I hate discussion, or then you might start to wonder whether you said this question so often, or maybe you will think the question shouldn't be asked. But no, I don't think so, and this is not my purpose. The past is beautiful because because one never realizes an emotion at a time. It explains later. Thus, we don't have complete emotions about the present, only about the past, said Virginia Woolf. The way the world works makes us often must comment on current emotions. But in fact, in a day or a whole week, or last month, last year, or even 10 years ago, it's hard for us to finish in a few words because the emotions are so complicated. In the book of human emotions, 154 kinds of human emotions are mentioned and described. This reminds me how many of us can really know what our emotions are. The growing experience seems to prevent us from talking about emotions. After ignoring our emotions for a long time, we even misuse them. And the definition of emotion is an agitated state produced by an individual for a certain stimulus. In a psychological aspect, the individual accepts the emotional evaluation produced by an external stimulus, which in turn arouses the individual's mood and then persists their emotional fragments. And finally, the individual realizes the generation of the emotions. The past experience, current needs, and future expectations continue to embellish the senses and produce meaning, and psychological process that recognizes the relationship between individual and object is called environmental perception. What I want to do is to create this environment and then make the audience feel the change in the psychological process. And this process, you have to walk through it to find out your answer. 你必须亲自走一遭才知其所以然。And this is my statement. How's your day? 日日安好. A participatory installation that takes you into the depths of untouched heart. In this exhibition, viewers are able to explore emotion from a variety of perspectives, allowing them to ask themselves sincerely after leaving How's your day? The environment I created can be divided into two parts. The audience can go from speed to slowness, from hasty judgments to careful thinking, from disguise to honesty. The purpose of the first part is to capture the audience's intuitive reaction and let the audience to feel the oppression that must be chosen. And in the second part is for the audience to take their time to complete the process of exploring, organizing, and interpreting emotions on their own. Through the contrast, I hope the audience could think about the difference between these two parts, provoking some psychological changes. I also provide the contrast process in the interviews. First, I ask them, how was your day, how are you going, how are you feeling? And then I ask them, how do they feel, or what is the first reaction when someone asks you the question like, how was your day? Are you 100% honest? And then I give them 5 minutes to really think about themselves, and I leave them alone. And I also told them that they didn't have to answer this question again after the 5 minutes, only if they wish to. What I create is an experience of emotion. It's from specific feeling to an ambiguous state. It's a journey that you should walk through by yourself. In this process, you might see a series of emotion phases gradually disassembled into geometry fragments. At the end of the installation, the audience will sit alone at the table, using these geometries to create their own emotional phase. When seated, the audience will see geometry fragments surrounding their shadow, symbolizing that everything is back to zero. What they need to do is to get along with their emotional fragments. This is a place where you can listen to music with headphones, touch and feel emotional fragments. All you need to do is to immerse yourself in your own world. You don't need to explain to anyone. You can stay as long as you want and reflect upon your own emotions and current situation. Knowing yourself is the internal subject and process of life, so it doesn't matter if there's no conclusion.
How's your day?
开心。
How are you going?
高
How
兴。
are you doing?
压力、
How's your day?
无聊。
伤心、
不要问，不要问，
How are you going?
不要问，不要问，
How are you doing?
不要问，不要问，
你这个还好
不要问我这么有哲学性的问
How's
题。
your day?
不要问，不要问，
How are you
不
going?
要问我。
面具戴久了，也许就摘不下来了。
How's your
我
day?
陶醉于困惑之中，完整，
How's your day?
不要问，
完整，
How are you going?
完整，完整，
How are you doing?
事情说出来，并不会让你变得
但可
更完
以让我
美。
感觉完整，
How's your day?
完整。
How's your day?
最近好吗？
你想听实话还是谎话？
How are you going?
还是谎话？
How are you doing?
完整，还是谎话？
How's your day?
还是谎话？完整，完整，
How's your day?
你想听实话还是谎话？
How are you
最
doing?
近好吗？
不要问，不要问，
How's your day?
不要问，不要问，不要问我这么有哲学性的问题。
How are you doing?
别问我没有答案的问题。
面具戴久
How's
了，
your day?
也许就摘不下来了。
不要问，
How's your day?
没有答案。完整，
How are you
不
going?
要问，
How are you doing?
我陶醉
不
于
要问我这么有哲学性的问题。
事情说出来
没有答，案，
How's your day?
但可以让我感觉完整。
这个还好。
不要问我这么有哲学性的问题。
你想听实话还是谎话？别问我没有答案
How's
的
your
问题。
day?
这个还好。
你想听实话
How's your day?
没有答案。
How are you going?
不要问，
How are you doing?
不要问，
How are you
这个
going?
还好吗？
没有。我佯装若无其事的时候，
我享受了你的白色谎
我
言。
承受了我的伤痕
How's
累
your
累。
day?
没有答案，但可以让我感觉完整。
不要问，
How's
越是在白昼欢快，暗夜就越显悲戚。
你有能望穿秋水的眸子，
却没能揭开世故的混沌。
我们没有明显的伤口。
别问我没有答案的问题。This is some backstage of the project. This overall schedule and the budget and total cost is 757 pounds. Yeah, and this is key vision, and the left one is the diary app Muda that I usually use to record my emotion. It's colorful, but I decided to use, in the end, I decided to use black and white and gray as a key visual is because when I mention rate, my rate might be different from your rate. So therefore, I remove the colors and use the texture of the material to express the layers of emotion. And I use different kinds of plywood and use the recycled wood bricks that taken from a material arcade and curving them and painting them. And initially, I found a venue by myself, and the venue has a open space and also a small room, and which can fit my concept. And later, the school sponsored the venue, and I choose this area where I can feel the change of the space. And these are all the posters, public relations that I made. And these are the Instagram page, the PR schedule, and also the tickets. Yeah, and I also collaborate with the artists and 3D animators and musicians, Aksan, to accomplish with my project.
Yeah, and this is some documentation, the photos of the project.
How when people ask me how was my day, I'm also just thinking about how was my week and how was my month, because that also makes me think about what my day is like.
如何定义说今天过得怎么样，然后要用哪一种词汇，有没有一个词汇可以形容？
Trying to be formal, present by identity to others.
It's just greeting. If you treat it as a greeting, yeah, it's good. If you treat it as a real question, wow, it's pretty serious, I want to say. So I haven't had enough time to think about what I feel recently until now. Yeah.
就是这5分钟对我来说一定很珍贵，谢谢。
If you ask me what is the definition and feeling of how's your day now, to be honest, it's a good question and I don't have an answer. I don't even need to tell you if I have an answer because I just want you to sincerely ask yourself, how's really your day? Thank you.
I start. It's always easy just to start off. Congratulations. I think from all the presentations, because it added a complete different layer, and it's actually an integral part of the actual installation. It really worked as a Gesamtkunstwerk. And so because it became not a presentation, but a documentary of it. And in a way, as a documentary, it almost as if you were the journalist on yourself. And I find that really intriguing, that you didn't sort of say, I did this, and therefore that result came out. It's like something happened, people answered, and then I reacted to it. And I think that is something which is quite unique as a student project. And I think that is something I really big time write down for yourself, like that this is your way of working. That might be your future, this forensic, journalistic designer. Yeah, inquisitory designer. No, the last thing that you said, there is no answer, you go on. It's a core of, I think, what we try to communicate. And yeah, so thank you. Well done.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the total work of art, yeah, and the way you presented it as well was brilliant. Like we were just discussing this with Tanja and other colleagues, that every word was at its place, like every slide was very carefully designed. So you really had our attention from the beginning till the end, so we could fully appreciate the quality of your work. So for me, I really enjoyed the kind of question side. You called it journalistic. For me, it had an anthropological element because you ask people about their opinions and how they feel, but you don't stop there. Yeah, you are not satisfied with those answers, but you go further and you question the answers. And the question of honesty is related to the way they answer to the question of how is your day? And you dig further and further to fully understand what they mean. And for me, this had really a powerful effect, almost like an anthropological effect, because we saw different people, different facial expressions, and somehow we feel we also know these people, we know something about their day. And it's not just a cultural convention, but you just went deeper and deeper into trying to understand what they mean and how they formulate this kind of judgments on their day. I also liked the level of kind of expression, the fact that you deconstruct entirely the conventions, even the conventional emojis of how we express our kind of satisfaction of the day are totally deconstructed on the in the graphics of the slide, but especially in the installation, we can see this deconstruction, we can experience it, and then you give us the possibility to construct again, to compose again a different expression, a different opinion, different answer, unconventional answer to this question, how is your day? So this was for me like the really powerful elements in your work, and you brilliantly communicated it. Well done, really well done.
Yeah, it's is it Gestamskunstwerk? Gestamskunstwerk, yes. Thank you for your Gestamskunstwerk. I'm sure I said that wrong, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yes, they all say. Yeah, congratulations. Fantastic presentation. I wonder if I'm the only person here who's thinking about the 1970s right now. No, because in the 1970s, there was a program. I'd be very curious to see if it was as popular in China as it was here. There was a program called Kung Fu. And every week there was a sequence where the lead character, David Carradine, would walk a path. And he had to replicate certain forms to complete this path. And I got a very palpable experience of that by walking along that just now. But there's something, there was a real sense of disintegration to that, because there's a fragility to the emojis and the emotions that disturbing things were happening to the emojis beneath actual human weight. And then at the top, there was something, I don't know, an essence for me of the tree of life about it, or, you know, the estuary, the single path here that like fans out into the sea, and an attempt to reconstruct at the very top. In the presentation itself, I thought that you created a fascinating language with the emoji characters. I think that your parentheses either side of the facial features was absolutely inspired. So I think it's the fourth slide up there. Can we have another look at that slide number 4? No, the one before. Yeah, this is absolutely inspired. I don't know. Could you speak about how you arrived at this? Because that's really interesting. Yes.
I think that's this geometry it's the top.
Well, it's a terrific graphic for the journey you took us on today. And it is absolutely a journey. And when I got to the end, I wanted to go again because I felt that there were elements of the journey that I hadn't taken in. because I was focused so much on my feet and so disturbed by what was happening to the artist's art beneath my feet. But I didn't actually look to the side, and perhaps I took my mind off the music as well. There's a lot going for this. Congratulations.
I just want to congratulate, like, I don't want to repeat like everybody, like it was all said, but I think as well your dedication, like you were the ones coming in the morning, first ones leaving the latest, and was always every day there, the preparation beforehand, no, last week already. So for 2 weeks, you really used the space, facilitated the space, but not in a, like, here I am, I'm the star, like really like as you presented it, like in the person, how you presented it. And I think, yeah, that's great. It's like, it's a big progress now for 18 months. And I want to congratulate you on that.
One other thing I did want to say is that when emotion is floated as a proposition, it's often like, oh God, here we go. But actually, no emotion, please, with English. No, it was a really fresh take. I mean, the assumption, I think, particularly with people who are like, you know, in their 50s, like me, or older, is that, you know, there's nothing that we can be told about emotions that we don't already know. But you've completely disproved that theory this afternoon.
Yeah, just to add to this, I think there's a very powerful language, almost like Otto-Neurath's kind of pictograms, but of emotions that you have invented here, which goes beyond any cultural convention. So it's like a transcultural language, and the language of symbols that we can all understand. But if you take this inquiry in different cultures, like where there's not, in some cultures, there's not a simple answer of how was your day, yeah? And I'm sure you would know more about this with all the semantic comparisons that we were doing over the 2 days. But in some cultures, you'll not get an answer, yes, I'm fine and I'm okay, but a complaint about the day, or we can go into different modalities of engagement with the questions. Then we will understand to what extent your kind of Otto-Neurath language of expression of emotions is even more important, because it goes beyond this kind of cultural differences, and it becomes an important pictogrammic language of emotions. Tony, no? So Tony was first. I'm so sorry, Richard.
It's I'm just saying, I think it's quite an enterprise to kind of signal and visually construct notions of emotion. And my experience of traveling the path was really exceptionally kind of sensual, you know. It dealt with my balance, it dealt with the sort of exceptional sort of qualities under my feet, you know, and then it seemed to get more intense as I neared the table. And then, although I heard the music, I actually felt it was better not to close myself off from the environment. And so then I was able to construct a whole series of ideas about how I was feeling with the material that you'd given me on the table. So I wasn't trying to actually construct with your imagery how I felt. In fact, your imagery was helping me understand how I felt. So in that kind of respect for me, it became a score. So it was a kind of scoring of the way I was feeling. Actually, I didn't know what the score would represent, but I didn't really care, because I did have some sense of it, of an opportunity, rather than words, of being able to sort of visually represent in some way how I felt and all those ideas that came up from the experience that I'd had. So that was different from the first part of the film, where you were basically asking, how was your day? Because I hadn't known what they might have experienced. And so, of course, you've got a little bit more of a sort of kind of simpler answer of whether it was good and whether they were getting a job. I actually appreciated the person who'd first woken up and couldn't answer the question, because that seemed to signify much more about what was actually happening to her than a phrasing in terms of words. So yeah, I mean, obviously, Daniel Goldman comes to mind, you know, and then also Howard Gardner and his theories of multiple intelligence. And, you know, I just wanted to point out that Howard Gardner, his work on, his seminal work on emotional intelligence, first asks, how do you find out? How do you recognize the feelings that you're having? And very often in our culture, we're not taught to recognize those feelings in any way. We're taught to, we're basically taught to dampen them down. So, you know, what I think you're doing is really exceptional in terms of right from the very beginning, people could construct a vocabulary without words, which would be a visual vocabulary, a kind of scoring process, which they could create, not really knowing what the symbology was, and then have a period of interpretation and a period of reflection on what they've done. So thank you very much. That was great.
Good job.
I just would like to congratulate you on your discipline. Quite an old-fashioned, complicated word, but you were really, another word, economic. You didn't waste your own time. You didn't waste our time. You made everything work. Somebody, I think David already talked about the quality of the presentation. I mean, it's learning to make a presentation, which is always best. Just do it with some friends. Do it with somebody you know and trust who goes, oh my God, yeah. Get to the fourth moment and I'm already asleep or whatever. Just test it. But it was really, really, I don't know how you had worked it out, but it was really economic and consequently, it was really eloquent. And you can feel everybody got it. In their own way, everybody got it. And then the other thing is that there's obviously a huge anthropology of greeting and departure, which I know very little about, but you know when you cross cultures, when you get it wrong. So I had to do a Zoom with Istanbul about a week ago, and I'm a bit old-fashioned, although I don't want to admit to it. And I said to somebody, how do you do? And they started to tell me. And I'd never met this person before. And like an idiot, I said, you're not meant to reply. So I ruined the entire process of greeting this person. You know, it had enough intimacy in it. It was a professional thing, but everybody trusted everybody. And I just used, perhaps because I haven't done it for 2 years, I used a slightly formal how do you do, but you're not expected to reply. And of course, when you jump cultures, you know, Americans telling me to have a nice day, I just want to go, fuck off. You know, I'll decide that. And of course, I'm not meant to hear, it's a kind of, you know, it's kind of fraternal, sororal, you know, it's meant, it's an encouragement, but it's too encouraging for an Englishman. So they're very, very interesting spaces. And I'll finish by something which is a sort of bad European joke. I was walking down my street and there was a woman coming towards me. And I knew that I was pretty confident that it was Italian, but I just heard she was talking on her phone to somebody who was intimate, completely different volume to anyone in England would do. And it was a nice morning about 6 weeks ago, and I passed her And I said, buongiorno. So she was on the telephone and I impertinently crossed her telephone call in her language. And I continued to walk. It was an idle silliness. But she was continuing walking and there were two women coming behind me who crossed her. What I didn't know is that these women were going to catch me up at the bus stop. So we all met at the bus stop and they were laughing. And they were laughing because they heard her say, "This man just said good morning. It's good afternoon." And they were Portuguese. So we had a whole really gorgeous theatrical event based largely on her rather loud conversation and me deciding to contribute to it. But I think there is something that you're doing that is very social. And whoever said maybe you found there's something called mass observation, which you should look up, which is something that was done before the war in this country, which was pretty much listening to what other people said and trying to work out what it meant. So on the street. Anyway, brava.
Well, so much has been said. I just like to congratulate you and thank you. I think you turn it this, I'm talking about transcultural, no? Like gaps, and this is a classic. I mean, I lived in London like more than 20 years ago, and that's a classic, and I'm Brazilian. So, I mean, this kind of question, it's totally different when what you expect to answer. And I think it's so beautiful because what you do, you qualify this question that which is given and something that separates to a truly listening gesture towards the other in all days, to then allow us to listen to ourselves and then really build up this multiplicity of feelings and deep connections that we are so longing for. And you really make it happen. I'm just repeating in a beautiful way. So thank you again. Yeah. Well,
Perfect. Yeah, so really efficient.